Hi, guys and ladies, welcome back to another exciting episode of Being an Analyst. On this podcast, we are trying to do all that we could to inspire you to becoming an excellent or expert analyst. My name is Disama Mansieti, and this is episode number 39. And in this episode 39, we are discussing how to ask the right question or ways to ask the right question in order for you to prepare or you have a proper data story. It's about how to ask the right question for data storytelling. Why is it this important? Data storytelling is not just about putting in the slide or putting in a presentation or just writing a memo. It's all about finding following a certain steps or making sure that the certain things are present before you go to do your own presentation. If you're just showing us the numbers, that's just an insightful report that you're going to be putting out there. It's got nothing to do with data storytelling. But before we start with data storytelling, we are discussing now, how do you now ask the right question to your clients, to your stakeholders, to your execs, to your manager, so that you can be able to answer or create a data storytelling pack. That's what we are discussing. Stay tuned for the rest of the episode. I want to thank you for always coming here, listening to this podcast. I feel motivated when I see new people, I'm getting new comments, and I'm seeing new reviews and ratings. Wherever you're listening to this, Spotify or Apple, please go in and rate us. It's best way that other people, like-minded people, can actually find this podcast and we can share these ideas with them. We talk about everything else that has to do with inspiring you to becoming an excellent expert analyst. Whether you're talking about from the starting, how do you become an analyst, or we're talking about how do you push your career forward to becoming an analyst. Why me? Just a small story about myself. I spent almost 2 decades in banking. That's my experience, running from finance teams, running to strategy teams, going into sales effectiveness teams. I have spent it all and I have developed wonderful things that were able to handle a lot of data, and that helped with decision making. Decision making was done very, very quickly. In terms of school, I have about 7 university qualifications. 3 of those are from the best business schools in South Africa. That is Henley Business School, GIPS, and University of Cape Town's Graduate School of Business. So when it comes to understanding the language or what is needed from the exec's point of view, I think I'm the best person to be able to give you this, and hence why we are doing this whole podcast about helping you to start becoming actually an excellent, proficient analyst. So this episode, before I know you're already anxious to say, where's the question? This episode is going to have 3 segments. The first segment, we're going to start with data storytelling, to say, what is data storytelling? What should you have to actually ensure that you are doing data storytelling? After that, I will do the steps that you must do, or the behaviors that we must embody in order to start asking the right question. And after that, our favorite, which is my personal favorite, is the quiz. The quiz is just for us to check how far are we in filling up the gaps. If you find yourself not knowing anything else on the quiz, make sure that you go back and re-listen, because the answers to all that whatever is in the quiz or the multiple choice question is what we're going to be discussing from now onward until the end of the episode. Let's start with the first segment. How do you ensure that whatever you are doing is data storytelling. Data storytelling. Like I said earlier, before our theme song, not everything else that has got, not everything else that has got data, not every slide, not every memo, not everything else is data storytelling. Other things could be for information, so they could be informative, meaning that just like a stop sign, it tells you this is where you stop. It's informative. It's not giving you any insights. But if I put something just under the stop sign to say count of number of people that have stopped in that stop sign, now that's insightful. Now I'm bringing in the data that you wouldn't have known because you can see the stop sign everywhere across countries, everywhere. They look the same. So you know that is a stop sign. But that count just below it to count the number of cars that are going past the stop sign, and in fact the ones that are actually going past the stop sign without stopping. Once I show you those two numbers in a little counter, that now becomes insightful. Now that poll is moved from being informative to insightful. Now, when you take that poll, a picture inside a boardroom, it will be the same as how you see it. If it's just this picture of the stop sign, it's just informative. There's a stop sign there. Once we see the counter in the boardroom, it becomes insightful. But it doesn't mean that you have done data storytelling. Now, data storytelling is all about telling us how did you guys decide to pick that stop sign? How did you and your team decide to implement that counter? How did you ensure that the counter is not counting incorrectly? All of that, you start the story from once upon a time to, the climax of the story until the end of the story. Now that is data storytelling. So for us to actually understand data storytelling, I'm just gonna make it into, think of it as is the road trip. It has six stops. I'm gonna stop six times. The first stop, which is the first element that you must make sure that is there when you do data storytelling, is the data foundation. So in our stop sign story, insightful stop sign story, the data foundation will be making sure that our story or our data story becomes unique because it is entirely based on data. There's no assumptions there. If you are doing stop sign, don't talk about the people that are smiling at it. Everybody likes it, creates positive atmosphere to the community. All of those are not data related because you're not bringing that into the boardroom. So the nice part about it is that it's all about data. The foundation of the data story is collection of facts, making it a work of non-fiction. So you don't bring in your own gut feel or whatever in a data story telling or in the data story. It's all about non-fiction facts or non-fiction insightful um, you know takeaways that you are bringing into the boardroom. The credibility and the power of the data story depends on the quality and the trustworthiness of the data. This is why we have to talk about how did you install and where did you buy the material and what is the error rate of that materials, scanning cats instead of cars. And that's the first step. It's all about making sure that you have a proper data foundation. The second one is, getting to the main point to say, why are we here for? We're here for the stop sign. So, second element, which is the main point, we're talking about a data story must have a central, insightful, or a central main point. Please don't make a story where there's too many climaxes. Even series now, they only focus on one central thing. Very few series now, every episode has got a climax that is a central. All of them, you can see the journey of this person going all the way to personal fulfillment journey. So same is true with your presentation, your memo. Focus on one story and that's it. Same as this episode. We're just talking about one thing and not too many things. All facts shared on the day on the story should support the overarching insight. Do not bring in the number of thunderstorms that are happening in the area. If all that you are trying to present here is that people don't take care of or do not give less regard for stop signs, the data about the people that are stopping and the people that are not stopping is central to the story. But the thunderstorms that are happening in the area, it's a nice insight, but it's not relevant to the main story. So that's focus on one data point and then keep it there. Focusing on the main point ensures the data has a clear purpose and avoids overwhelming the audience with unrelated facts. Now I have to remember, what year did Jan van Riebeeck land on the Cape? What year did Christopher Columbus land on the Cape, on Americas? All of those are beautiful data, but make sure that all your data meets to one thing. The third element is explanatory focus. Explanatory focus, meaning that data stories should have an explanatory emphasis going beyond mere description. So, a mere description will be saying, this is a stop sign, this is a speedometer, this is a display of the speedometer. That's just description. So a data storytelling goes beyond. What was the reason you chose the speedometer? Because we didn't have a lot of people wanted to track the stuff 24 hours. That's why we chose to actually drill in or embed the digital scanner and all of that. The reasoning behind it goes just beyond mere description. Explanation involves clarifying the insights and providing context by addressing how and why something occurred. So, being explanatory helps the audience understand the deeper meaning behind the data, even if it requires some degree of interpretation and speculation. So we have to make sure that we are able to explain what is happening and we are able to give people a degree of interpretation to say, because people are passing this much, according to our knowledge, this means the following. The first element that we have to be looking at when we're talking about data storytelling is it must follow a linear sequence. So there needs to be a linear sequence. So you need to start with what was the problem, who approached you, how much funding did they give you, and then follows the linear sequence. So the data stories, it does that linear sequence where each data point builds to the from the previous one and is leading to the main conclusion. So if all that we are talking about, the stop sign and the speedometer, everything else must lead up to the conclusion. Presenting data in stages helps the audience gradually understand the central issue or opportunity. Effective storytelling involves guiding the audience through a clear sequential path. It has to be clear. There's no doubt about it. The path that we are telling when we get to the boardroom about our stop sign has to be clear. Why are we doing it? Depending on which mental model or which reporting model you're going to be following, you can start with the effects already. And then when you get here, you just tell the story, but they already know how did we do it or how can we trust what we are looking at. The fifth element is called dramatic elements. So the data stories benefits from dramatic elements such as setting the plot and characters, providing contextual details like time frame, data sources, past performance, and it helps the audience to grasp the insights. Highlighting the human aspects behind the data, could be whether it's customers, it's employees, or whatever it is, makes the story more relatable and engaging. So the last part here that is suggested is that you do the visual anchors, and I like that. The visual anchors is what we are good at. Those are the crafts that we are bringing to the boardrooms. Those are where we're showing off our skills. The visual elements are crucial for data stories as humans are naturally visual creatures. So we always want to see something that is visual, and we remember stuff that are presented beautiful, that are visual. Visual depiction of data, whether it could be charts, it could be graph or images, are often more powerful and engaging than just words or numbers. That is one thing that we have to remember, that the visual effect is actually powerful. So if you really, really, really want to know more about the steps that I just spoken about, I suggest you get this book. It's called Effective Data Storytelling by Brett Dykes. Effective Data Storytelling by Brett Dykes. Very, very insightful book. I love it because it taught me a lot of things. And if I were to summarize it, it's a must read for people that are doing a lot of visuals or and a lot of reporting, especially if that's us as analysts. So the book is highly recommended by me, and it's highly recommended by a lot of people in the community. So please make sure that you get yourself a book, or get yourself a book summary if you don't have the time for the book. Let's jump into the second segment, since we now spoken about what makes the data story, and you are okay with what makes the data story. Let's talk about how do you ask the impactful questions now. Now, the impactful questions is the questions that you're gonna be asking so that you can create your data story, so that you can understand what is needed before you go present it. Remember what we just discussed earlier? It's just helping you understand, present your findings. That's data storytelling. But now we're talking about the questions that you should be getting as you are gathering the requirements that are needed for the project itself. So the first thing, I'm also gonna do 6 stops, 6 things also that you have to think about when you asking the right question. First one is understand the context. Understand the context that is dealing with. If the context has to do with road safety, has to do with neighborhood watch, that is the context. It's got nothing to do with unemployment. It's got nothing to do with shows that are popular on Netflix. All of these are data, but it's data that's irrelevant for our context. If I've been called into a room and I look around and I see neighborhood watch person, and I see a traffic officer, and I see a resident right there, you're just adding 1 plus 1 together, and you're realizing that this got something to do with the neighborhood and not the entire country. So before diving into questions, make sure you understand the context of the discussion. Research the topic, whether before or after. Know the key players in the boardroom, and be aware of the project's background. And what has been the issue of the neighborhood all along. Just the general high level background. This preparation allows you to ask relevant and informed questions when you get into the boardroom. Once you are inside there, the second thing that we have to look at is be clear and concise in your questioning or in your talking. When asking a question, clarity is key. At one point, I attended the conference, I grabbed the mic and I asked the question. And the moderator said, "Thank you for the comment." I I knew how to ask a question. But what I did when I was in front of the mic was not how to ask the question. It was too long, it was not clear. It fell under the comment section. It was a polite way of saying you just wasted our time. Make sure your question is easy to understand and straight to the point. Avoid jargon and complex language that might confuse others. Just make it clear and make it simple. Third thing is focus on open-ended question. Why? Because open-ended questions are much more powerful than yes, no, yes, maybe, I don't know, tomorrow. So open-ended question encourages detailed responses and a deeper insights. If you ever been to the interview or you ever interviewed people, you will realize that when you're asking direct questions, even the person who wants to be interviewed, they shrink up a little bit. But when you ask open-ended question, the only thing else that you are worried about is that time management in answering the question. You're like, it took 6 minutes to answer that. I'm worried about this candidate, you know. But as far as if they're able to talk for 2 minutes max per question, you guys are in good stead. 2 minutes or a minute talking and then stop, let the other person ask a probing question and then you keep on going. Or, talk, and then give them a pause and say, would you like to know more? And when they say, yeah, continue, then you continue. Would you like to know more? But open-ended questions are very, very nice. The typical ones that you can look at for open questions is what, how, why. Those actually let us go on forever. Like the topic of this podcast episode, I just spoke about how to ask the right question, and look at it. I'm still going on, a couple of minutes after I've started, because what, it's an open-ended question. Number four is we need to listen actively. Listening actively cannot be taken for granted. We have to listen actively. Why? Because asking good question is also involved good listening, so that you can pick up the prompts, you can pick up where the gap is, so that you can go in. When you realize that you're talking over people, it becomes, on the other side, it might show as if, oh, you don't want to listen to me as the subject matter expert. You're asking too many questions too quickly. And also, if somebody else says, oh, I like that question, and he asks a random, not a follow-up question, you're expecting a follow-up and they ask you a random question, um, also shows clearly that they were not listening to what you were asking or what you were saying. But if they do listen to what you are saying, and they do, and they would have to actively listen and then be able to show that they've been paying close attention. So pay close to attention to responses and use them to form follow-up questions. If Just don't do follow-up questions for the sake of it. Do when they are needed. Rather, acknowledge and then move over to the next question. This shows that you are engaged and value the speaker's input when you are actively listening. Number five is be respectful and considerate. Always ask question respectfully, and consider the perspective of the other person you are questioning. A polite and professional approach encourage open and honest communication. So if you're not being polite, you're being rude, you're trying to take the persona of your favorite news anchor, you stuck the mic. If I'm the person who's been interviewed, I mean, I'm not gonna be rude by standing up and leaving you, but I'll think twice next time before I actually let you in my circle again. The last part is summarize for consideration. Say, what I'm understanding is this what I'm understanding. Why? Because after receiving the answer, just go through, summarize it briefly to ensure that you have understood it correctly. This also gives the respondents a chance to correct any misunderstanding. Not to say, oh, so what you're telling me is you are not happy. No, it's a different one. You're making your own assumption. Somebody says, I'm fed up with the line of work. On my side, I'll say, thank you for your comment. If I'm really understanding, you are fed up with your line of work. Is that correct? Then they'll say, yes. I'm not making. So you are fed up. You want to go. Where do you think you are going? So it's a nice, respectful conversation and respectful engagement that we are getting into. Okay. I hope you find those useful, because I know once you get to the 6 steps, especially when you're about to go and pick up your requirements or what's needed for your data project or what's needed for whatever work that you're going to be doing, it's important that you spend some time. It's important that you spend some time um, rehearsing the 6 things about how to make or ask the right questions. Let's jump into the last segment, which is the fun part, just to check if you have been listening throughout the episode. 5 questions, very easy to understand. Let me just start somewhere with the first question. First question says, what makes a data story unique? What makes a data story unique? Is it A, it's based on fictional events? B, it's entirely based on data? C, it uses elaborate plots and characters? D, it relies on opinion and anecdotes? The answer to what makes a data story unique is answer number or option number B, which says it's entirely based on data. Everything else is entirely based on data. Question number 2, why is it important for a data story to have a main point? Why is it important for a data story to have a main point? Is it A, to entertain the audience? B, to support the overarching insight? C, to include as many facts as possible? D, to confuse the audience with complexity? The answer to why is it important for a data story to have a main point is option number B, to support an overarching insight. So the insight is there's a problem with people in the neighborhood and reckless driving. We went to the stop sign, we collected the data. So many people are going past the robot with the stop sign without stopping. So many people are stopping in the stop sign. Reckless behavior, it's around this time, this other times it's not there. So all of those insights that we are picking is to support the main hypothesis that we came up with. Okay, we speak about hypothesis building and everything else, I think, in episode 20. So if you feel you wanted more to do with how do you create an hypothesis and how do you go back and prove the hypothesis, I would suggest that you go back to earlier episodes and listen to them. Let's look at the next question. Question number 3 says, what should be the focus of a data story to ensure it is explanatory? What should be the focus of a data story to ensure that it is explanatory? Is it number A, describing data is describing data in great detail? Number B, providing context by explaining how and why something occurred. Number C, listing random data points. Number D, using complex technical language. The right answer to what should be the focus of a data story to ensure it is explanatory, it's actually number B, that says providing context by explaining how and why something occurred. That is context. Why is there reckless behavior in the neighborhood? That context. And that's why we're focusing on a data story. Number 4, how does presenting data in a linear sequence benefit a data story? Is it number A, it makes the story longer so that we can sleep? Number B, it helps the audience gradually understand the main issue or opportunity. Or number C, it confuses the audience with too much information. Or number D, it allows skipping important details. The right answer to how does presenting data in a linear sequence benefit a data story is actually number B. It helps the audience gradually understand the main issue and opportunity. I think by now you've picked it up that most answers are in number B. So, will the following questions answer be on number B? Let's listen for it. Which element makes a data story more engaging and relatable? Is it A, using only numbers and statistics? B, highlighting the human aspect behind the data? C, avoiding any mention of people or context. D, ignoring dramatic elements like setting and plot. Which element makes a data story more engaging and relatable? The correct answer to that is number B. It highlights the human aspects behind the data. So that's the end of our episode. Thank you for coming over here, beinganalyst.co.za, for more information. If you want to, reach out to me and the team, info@beinganalyst.co.za. This is episode number 39. We'll chat again in episode number 40. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.